Well, now, got another guest to react to all that. Just joining me, just sitting down there, and it's Owen Paterson. Very good to see you. We've heard from Boris Johnson a little bit earlier, and I'm sure you share a lot of his concerns about what the Prime Minister has said. I mean, if agreement is found with Jeremy Corbyn, you're going to be going into a customs union, or staying in a customs union.
Yes, I think you're horribly right. The current agreement is bad. It talks about a single customs territory and a possible customs union for Northern Ireland. And Jeremy Corbyn's been banging on about a customs union. So all it can do is make the withdrawal agreement much worse. I mean, I think it's extraordinary, this development. We're just on the verge of council elections. We've got tens of thousands of council candidates out there. And they see the Prime Minister going off trying to do a deal with the most extreme Marxist Labour leader for decades. And yet, actually, we are 9 days out, or 10 days out now, from a great moment of liberation. So at the moment, the law of the land is we will leave at 11 o'clock on the evening of the 12th. And we know that has huge support amongst the grassroots.
Well, but we know if the Prime Minister has a way, we're not, because she's going to go to the EU summit and ask for an extension.
Absolutely. But the point I'm making is that has enormous support amongst, obviously the 17.4 million, many of whom are Conservative voters. We've had polls, quite major polls, showing it has enormous support to leave amongst Conservative members and associations. And this is a moment where you could completely unite the Tory party, bring it all back together again, and all those voters at the moment.
OK, that's the what-ifs, but...
No, it's not what-if, it's live. That is live politics.
Well, we just heard the Prime Minister, she said the precise opposite. I mean, is her time up now? Is it time for her to go?
Well, I find it extraordinary to ignore the fact she could bring the whole party together by doing this.
OK, but she hasn't.
And it would it would end the uncertainty of business. It would absolutely unleash a whole wall of investment, and we would have 39 billion
deal
to
with
play
that statement. Deal with that statement.
Sorry.
Deal with that statement. She hasn't. So she's got to talk to Jeremy Corbyn. A customs union may come out of that, or indeed the indicative votes that she's going to make binding. Let the House of Commons take control here. And you saw what happened last night. Here's an extra incentive for some of those, or perhaps all of those, Common Market 2.0, an indicative vote for those to pass. And the Prime Minister says she'll take those on board. I mean, I know you don't agree with that. Isn't it time then for the Prime Minister to go now? We know she's going quite soon.
Well, there was an attempt to remove the Prime Minister in November, so currently there is no mechanism. But she did say last week that she would go, subject to the agreement being voted through. Now, I don't see any chance of the agreement being voted through, particularly if it's going to be made even worse by Jeremy Corbyn.
But what about with Labour votes if a customs union's tacked onto the political declaration?
Well, I think that would be an extraordinary mistake, because that is going to split all those associations and all those Tory members and all those Tory candidates who are completely up for leaving in 10 days' time, and a large number of her members of Parliament. That will split them from her leadership. That would be most unwise. So it's a very binary moment for her. There's a chance to absolutely unite the Tory party, to leave, and, of course, to open up that huge tract of Leave voters who at the moment have nowhere to go. There's only the Tory party.
How'd you get her off this course, though? She's heading in the opposite direction.
Good question. I hope someone in number 10 might be watching this programme. You had Boris on earlier, apparently, and other members are going on all over the media.
Well, he's already resigned, but we had Andrea Leadsom on, who we know could live with no deal. Would you like to see more resignations from your Brexiteer colleagues?
Well, bizarrely, what's coming out, obviously I wasn't there, but the figures coming out are that 14 or 15 of them were all for no deal, 10 weren't, but the Prime Minister has gone and backed the 10. Which I find completely bizarre.
Well, if the 15 walk out, that's the end of her, isn't it?
Well, what would happen then is that we have an opportunity to stick to our guns and leave on the 12th, which is current policy, put this whole nightmare behind us, and as I've said, that will bring certainty to business. It's known as crashing out and all this. This is all nonsense. We know a lot of deals have been done. We know Chris Heaton-Harris, who was in Parliament last week, was very reassuring that a lot of measures have already been taken. We were told the aeroplanes wouldn't fly. That's obviously nonsense. And we were told there'd be a problem at Calais. We know that people in Calais are very prepared. I've been down to Dover twice the last month. So all this Project Fear stuff, I think, will just fizzle into the past. And you unite the Tory party with the 17.4 million who voted to leave.
But to get the Prime Minister to change course, I mean, there are some of your colleagues in the party, in the European Research Group, saying that, well, They would vote against the government if it's on this course, if it does go for a customs union, and perhaps more, if it does go for a confirmatory referendum or something like that. Bring the government down. That's one of the options.
I don't see that happening. And absolutely nobody wants a general election. I don't see any Conservative wanting that anywhere. And we certainly don't want a European election. I mean, that would be disastrous to have European candidates while we have still not settled the European issue. So that is absolutely what we don't want, which is another very good reason for sticking to our guns on the 12th. And that is really important on timing.
What about the Democratic Unionist Party? You know them very well indeed, obviously, after your experience as Northern Ireland Secretary. They're never going to vote for this withdrawal agreement. It's not going to be amended. The Prime Minister made that clear. The only way she can get it through is with Labour support.
Yes, I don't see any chance. I quite agree with the DUP signing up to this. At no stage, at any time during the referendum, did anybody say we're going to create a separate entity for Northern Ireland, where there will be laws made and imposed on Northern Irish citizens where there won't be a single elected person who would influence those laws. We never, ever said that. And I think they are absolutely clear about that. They have been completely consistent, and large numbers of us agree with them. So I think you're quite right. The only way to get this through is with Labour votes, and that is potentially shattering.
Shattering for the party.
Yeah.
Robert Peel moment.
It is, absolutely, because you're splitting the membership who are completely on side with leaving, and you're splitting people like us who all we want to do is see the manifesto delivered. We're caricatures, extremists and ultras and all this nonsense. We're just manifesto conservatives. We want to see the manifesto delivered, which was leave the single market, leave the customs union, and leave the remit of the European Court of Justice.
Last thought on the length of extension. The Prime Minister imagines that it will be to May the 22nd. Of course, that ball is in the European Union's court. What would your attitude be if they come back and say, no, it's at least a year?
Well, as I understand it, if we are full paid-up members of the European Union on the 23rd of May, they will expect us to put up candidates for the European Parliament, because what they're worried about is that a European Parliament without us, or without European MPs from here, would not be valid, and decisions by that Parliament would be counter to the treaties. So the 23rd of May is the critical date. But as I understand it, I've had briefings on this, Privy Council briefings. In order to be prepared for those elections, the 12th of April is the key date. That is the day when returning officers have to start giving notice. And of course, European elections are more complicated because we've got to find exactly where all the European citizens are who are not normally on the electoral roll. So it is quite a complicated operation.
Well, they start then. I mean, the preparations, we understand, are taking place now in the UK.
Well, yes, there's a letter out on Twitter yesterday from David Livingstone, but the 12th of April is the absolute key drop-dead date. So it's at that point we have to give notice and the returning officers get into full campaign mode, preparing for the election, as if we would be members on the 23rd.
OK, Owen Paterson, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.